Remember when I made this video? Well, the worst characters in Tekken 8 have been buffed. Leroy, Steve, Zafina. Just a few weeks ago, these were the worst characters in Tekken 8. But times have changed. The latest patch gave us some very significant and very insignificant buffs to all three of these characters, some even skyrocketing up the tier list. In this video, I'll be explaining just how crap or worse these characters have become. So stay tuned for the latest episode of Steve Gets Oiled Up and Does Gay Pop first. Like, subscribe, comment. Also, I don't have 1k subs. Yes, I haven't posted since 1942, yada yada yada. But please, sub. I'm on my knees, in tears, begging. 1k subs and I'll rob a Taco Bell on live stream. Now let's get into it. I'm going to start with my main, Steve Fox. And there's a reason why I'll be starting with my boy Steve. And the reasoning is that our boy, the British Gov, is still complete dog shit.
It's the biggest piece of dog shit.
Imagine if Peaches and Beelzebub fucked and then had a baby and then they grew up and became a brain-dead midget adult with 2 heads. And then they fucked a puddle of sewage water and created a new life form incapable of thought or movement. That's Steve right now. You know when you go to a mental ward and the patients are all drugged up and brain dead? That's Steve right now. Bro is trapped inside of his own head with no way out. He simply forgot how to be a good character in this game. But let's just go through what he got in the new patch, or what he didn't get. Firstly, they buffed his heat smash. They buffed the damage by 5, so it does 50 instead of 45. Don't get excited, because this was pretty much a universal change. So many characters got heat smash buffs in this patch. Now onto something actually real, like a real change. All of the Lionheart moves, so back 1-2, down back 3-2, etc. On hit, they increase the frame advantage by 1. What this means is when you land one of these Lionheart moves, Lionheart 1 is now uninterruptible. Beforehand, you could power crush every option from this stance, meaning you had to duck left or right to punish a power crush, or use a just frame tech to throw punish. Pretty much using this stance was like a 50-50 for your opponent really. Well, in their favour. So that's been fixed. However, this doesn't take away from the fact that this stance is still terrible at mixing. Lionheart 1 is -9, so you lose your turn completely for doing a mid check, and all of the other options you can still power crush. Lionheart 1+2, the high guard break, gives you like 17 max damage. Wow. Lionheart 2, which is the most rewarding move from this stance, doesn't even give you a full combo because it uses your tornado. It's bad. Like in a game where Dragunov is going around doing while running 2s down back 3+4, this is what Steve gets. Alright man. Lionheart 1+2 also got a change. You'd think that this would make the stance better, but no, it changes absolutely nothing. This move now launches on normal hit. The move that you never hit on normal hit, because it can be power crushed consistently, now launches. Fantastic buff, truly groundbreaking shit. I had to take a seat reading this one, it swept me off my fucking feet. These things weren't even buffs, they were fixes. Lionheart now works as intended, which honestly isn't a bad thing. But Lionheart working as intended is arse. So yeah, now most of what I've said so far is pretty damn negative, right? However, Steve did get an actual buff. One actual buff. The forward hitbox on up forward 2 has been expanded. Before, this move would only hit straight down. It was like the worst keep out move in the world, right? Well, now it kinda works as like a 22 frame hop kick. It crushes lows and gives a launch. People are saying this is a whiff punisher. In my opinion, not really. It's 22 frames. It's a really rewarding move for good reads. You get like 80 damage off the combo, and it's like -14. So only certain characters can actually launch this move. But yeah, I memed around for a bit saying up forward 2 is the best move. It's actually trash. It's not very good. It's better, but the move was already terrible. And now it's usable, I guess. Thank you Harada for this amazing buff. Truly life changing. This is not all though. As many Steve mains knew, we had tech. In Lionheart, with a just frame input, you could switch from Lionheart stance straight into peekaboo stance. This was good for a number of reasons. You could throw punish brain dead power crushes. You could immediately go into peekaboo pressure if your opponent wasn't clicking buttons. Or you could just switch and do nothing because you can block in peekaboo stance. This was great. It gave people who actually practiced this a number of different options to go for and kinda opened up Steve's offense a little more. This has been removed because Bandai hates creativity. I'm not going to get into how corny and cringe this is because I would be here all day. Just know that whoever's idea it was to remove this, you get absolutely no hose. Simple. Now where do I think Steve is on the tier list now he's been adjusted? Well, he's got some good changes. He might actually be a solid A tier now. He's got good pressure, good whiff punishment, good wall carry. Yeah, he's like an A tier. An A tier of total diarrhea bum shit caca. He's the worst character in the fucking game by a landslide. Nobody is as bad as Steve, right? He is awful. I'm about to get into how these other guys have changed and you will just see how Steve has been left behind. He's in a bad place right now. Doo-doo caca dog water. Moving on. Leroy. Leroy at the start of Tekken 8 was literally just a normal old man. Like, imagine your grandpa who reads the newspaper in the morning and always complains that his knees hurt. This was Leroy. Leroy was basically Tekken 8's slice of life representation because he couldn't fight. You definitely weren't winning with this character. He was basically there to show you what would happen if you put an old man in a room of politically motivated martial artists. Leroy was essentially a social experiment. That is no longer the case. He got a full page of buffs in the last patch and is now potentially a fucking beast. But first, the issues Leroy had coming into this patch. He had no pokes whatsoever. It felt like every poke Leroy had was -6 on block, which is awful because -6 is practically giving up your turn. And you're doing this in like every situation. He also had some real struggle mids. Good on a hit, but a lot of times unsafe. So Leroy would usually go for his good highs and lows, but highs can be ducked, which will also block lows. So you see the problem arising here. Now let's see how he's been changed. Firstly, Leroy received a brand new move in the last patch, Sidestep 1+2. This move is a high, that is +7 on block. You heard me correctly, +7 on block. And a normal hit, +30. This one move has already just buffed Leroy's neutral insanely in my opinion. Although it is a high and does come out of sidestep, it's still cracked. I don't care what you say, it's cracked. All of Leroy's chain punch moves like 1+2 all recover more heat time now. So Leroy is even receiving heat buffs. Chain punches already ended up doing insane chip damage when you went into heat. And now they're even extending heat. Now the patch notes were a bit unclear and inconsistent when writing frame related stuff, so I'm going to assume that 1+2 and 1+2 were unsafe and have now been made safe. These are some pretty good strings. 1+2 in particular is great because it's now only -2 on block, so once again neutral gain buff. Leroy's Twin Dragon Gate, which is his parry, also got buffed. On a successful parry they now replenish grey health, so that's a nice buff. A perfect parry of course will give you more than the normal version. The damage for the normal version has also been increased by 5 and can also wall stun now. And the perfect parry, this is where we hear the good stuff. The perfect parry has the exact same damage buff but also gives a guaranteed follow up now. So Leroy has also been buffed defensively. Back 3, which is a hermit transition, damage has been buffed from 20 to 27 and is now +9 on block, not +8. To me, Leroy can now play in the neutral, at least decently well now, and that means that he will naturally be able to get going a lot easier, which is fantastic for a stance focused character. However, the high-low risk factor with this character still remains. He still doesn't really have a good safe mid from neutral, which is a glaring weakness. However, he's been buffed in other areas so much it kind of evens out. In my opinion, this character has gone from a bottom 3 character in the game to probably an A tier character. If you're an extremely pessimistic person, a high B tier. Leroy is now very good, but can the same be said for Zafina, who is our last character? Zafina is another stance-focused character, just like Leroy. And just like Leroy, it was hard for her to get her offense going because her stance transitions were pretty bad. And even when she was in stance, she has nothing on the level of Hermit, in my opinion. Over the last few patches, she's been slowly getting adjusted. They gave her better movement again, which was really her identity, and I'm not really sure why they even removed it. And now she's received a bunch of buffs in this patch, so let's see. 1-4 pre-patch was +2 on hit. I want you to take a guess on what it is now. Go on, I'll give you a second. Just think about it. It's +22, a 20 frame buff. This move is a tarantula transition. So if you hit this move, you can go for whatever you want in Tarantula because it's +22. There is still risk associated with this move though. On block, it still puts you at -5 in a stance that you can't block in. So a sharp opponent can punish you heftily for using this move. But this is a buff nonetheless. Down 3, which is a Mantis transition, was also buffed. It now gives +5 if used normally and +7 if you transition, which I'm sure just lets you do anything in Mantis stance uninterrupted outside of the Azazel moves. So this is actually a great buff. This stance doesn't really have like a mix, but it's not something your opponent really wants to be clicking into. First you start getting hit by lows, which is annoying enough, but then as soon as you do click, you're getting hit by a counter hit, or you're getting launched. If you duck, you get launched. So this buff basically gives more flexibility going into this stance, which is great, which is what I'm trying to say. Next, while running 1+2, this right here is a move. A good move. Firstly, it's a high, but it is now homing, which is very good for a running move. It's also been buffed so it can now come out in 20 frames if executed well. It's also +8 on block. This is also a tarantula transition. So you know what that weakness I said Zafina had with the stance transitions? Gone. You got this, guys. Zafina is looking pretty nice right now. She does lastly have a buff to Tarantula Down Forward 1, which is an Azazel move as well. This move was -7. It's now +6. So yeah, this is a buff. Big buff. Because now Zafina can turn into a pressure demon whenever she feels like it. So there's Zafina. Like Leroy, this character has definitely risen up the tier list. She's not as good as Leroy though, in my opinion. So B tier. I would say that these are strong adjustments, and I like what they did with this character so far. And I think that's it. If you liked the video, like, comment, subscribe. Who do you think the worst characters are in the game now? And should I do a part 2 of this? Maybe I'll talk about bears or something. Using bears as a selling point is genuinely insane, especially when I say it out loud. Anyways, rip Steve, and until next time, Kazuya mains, touch grass. And until next time, Kazuya mains, touch grass, you pasty looking milk duds.